Lake Wales, and welcome to the first episode of a new podcast that we've called The Mayor and the Manager. This is a part of a family of podcasts that High Point Church is creating on our new media outlet called Providence Voice. And we've created it as a way of keeping you, the citizens of our great city of Lake Wales, up to date on what's happening in our town, try and help you become more familiar with the people who you have elected and who you pay to make it important decisions that affect us, and to have an opportunity for you to ask questions of those people about those decisions and events. My name is Jack Hilligoss, and I am serving as the mayor of Lake Wales. I've been doing that since May of 2022. Just won re-election to my second term in April of this past year. And I am joined on this podcast by Lake Wales City Manager, Mr. James Slaton. James, welcome. And James, why don't you take a couple of minutes and just introduce yourself to our listeners? There's probably a lot of people in Lake Wales don't even know who you are or what you do. So tell us about your history in Lake Wales and how you got to this position.
Sure. I've been in Lake Wales for quite a while now. I actually started in February of 2003, so nearly 23 years ago.
Wow.
I spent my first 2 years as a consultant. I managed the city's IT network.
Okay.
And then the city hired me on full-time as their IT director. And then from there, I served in various positions over the last 20 years. So I have been the IT director for the city, the support services director, and I ran all the internal support departments. I did a stint as the city's emergency manager for a couple of years.
Okay. That wasn't during the hurricanes, was it?
It wasn't. Luckily, knock on wood, we didn't have any hurricanes during that time, but I did a lot of preparation, I think, in that period. I've served in the capacity of the public services director, so I ran all of the public works departments, aside from utilities, and then assistant city manager, deputy city manager, and then finally, at long last, became the city manager. I was appointed in 2020, right in the middle of COVID.
Oh, wow. Picked a great time to start.
Yeah.
Well, things have gotten better.
They have. Yeah, they have.
So has it been 5 full years then?
It's been over. June of 2020, June of last year was 5 full years.
Okay. So you're starting to get your legs under you now.
Getting my legs under me, yep. So December will be 6 years.
Okay, so in the last 5 years, Lake Wales has really, just like the rest of Polk County, started to grow. And not just started to grow, but the word that I use is our city has undergone a renaissance. And it has changed dramatically in the 4 years that I've served on city commission. And I've lived here for 30 years. You've been here for a while. I don't think that it has ever been this beautiful. And I know it has never had this much growth. And so we're going to be spending our first few episodes here talking about some of the key elements of that renaissance and the things that have been put in place since you've become the city manager that are helping us manage that well. And I want to start on this episode by talking about the thing that probably pops the most, which is the renovation of our historic downtown. So that work that's been done on Park Avenue and the Market Plaza and Oakley Park is probably ground zero of the great makeover. So why don't you tell us about Lake Wales Connected? How did that come about, and kind of share a timeline with us?
So Lake Wales Connected was really a community-based vision. I will tell you that certainly since I became the city manager, I really got the feeling from the public that they wanted more and they wanted better than what we had. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't the city manager at the time when Lake Wales Connected started, though I was involved. Mm-hmm. And it was really the Main Street organization and, some of the businesses in the downtown that really had the idea of coming up with a downtown master plan.
Real quick, tell us what Main Street is.
Main Street is a nationally recognized nonprofit organization that focuses on the economics of downtown, business recruitment, business retention, and historic preservation, essentially.
So it's a national organization.
National organization.
For a
correct.
local community to have one, there's certain criteria they have to meet.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, they do.
How long has Lake Wales had a Main Street? Do you know?
It hasn't been long. Lake Wales has had a nationally recognized Main Street on and off again.
Okay.
Over the decades.
Okay. So Lake Wales Connected started out of that group here in our city.
started out of that group in the city. And they wanted the downtown to look better. And so they came up with the idea of creating a master plan.
Okay.
And of course, the city was involved in that. And then it just grew from there. So it started, the focus was the downtown. And then after the process really got going, everyone realized that it had to be broader and bigger than just the downtown. We really needed to focus on some of the other areas in our historic core, particularly our northwest neighborhood.
Okay.
And we really wanted to get, the neighborhoods connected. We wanted the northwest connected to the downtown.
Right.
And that's where the name came from.
Okay. So northwest includes Lincoln Avenue, the Grove housing areas, and that sort of thing.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Fantastic. So as I remember when that was first getting legs under it here in our city, I wasn't serving in city government either. It's been, 9 years ago that planning started, and we worked with a company called Dover Coal to bring that together. Were you in the room when the initial planning stages were happening for Lake Wales Connected?
Yeah, well, they really engaged the public. There were several meetings, but some of which, of course, I was involved in and attended.
Yeah, I became familiar with a new word, a charrette, during all of this. So this is a pretty typical approach that our city takes when it puts together a plan. So why don't you share with us your understanding of that process, because, again, you weren't really leading the city at that point, and kind of describe the Lake Wales Connected Plan, because it's a pretty extensive plan. It's a very practical plan. I mean, I often say that cities do this kind of thing and they become really expensive 3-ring binders on some city manager's shelf somewhere. But you've been very committed to enacting Lake Wales Connected. So talk about the contents of the plan and what's in it and things that you've done to get it rolling.
Sure. Well, the plan overall is really focused on, I'd say, modern urban design principles.
Okay.
Everything is really focused on complete streets and mobility, walkability, wide sidewalks for outdoor dining, things of that nature. There's a master trail plan, and I think we'll get to that here in a bit.
Yeah.
Mobility is important in Lake Wales, and so connecting the assets within the historic core over the multimodal trail network is a priority, and that's another element of the plan.
Okay.
But it's more than just a design plan. It's really a revitalization plan. So there are steps within the plan that people may or may not see, but there are legislative changes, for example, that are recommended. Downtown mixed use, zoning district, things of that nature.
Let's stop for a second on that. So that's important. That, like you said, everyone sees the bricks and the trees and the swings, which are all very beautiful, but the zoning changes that were made, the downtown mixed use area. Talk a little bit more about that.
Well, I'll say this: there were 69 action items.
Yeah.
To complete the Lake Wales Connected Plan. 69. Some of them were multi-million-dollar projects. When I took over in 2020, there had been 0 projects completed. Nothing had even really been started. And so I'm proud to say that almost 6 years later, we have either completed or initiated or in the planning stages of about 55 of those 69 action items.
Wow.
And so the beautiful Park Avenue and Market Plaza, streetscape project, $14 million project, was only one of the 69 action items. If that gives you an idea of how much is really going on that folks may not see.
And you said that the most visible part, and frankly, the part that takes your breath away, is downtown. But let's talk about some other things that maybe aren't so obvious then that were critical in implementing the plan.
Sure. We've done a lot. For example, the Northwest sidewalks.
Yeah, I remember getting started on those.
Huge project. Yeah. The neighborhood, believe it or not, has the highest percentage of let's say walkers.
Okay.
In all of Lake Wales.
Okay.
There's just really has been a lack of transportation. I've personally been over there and seen mamas pushing their babies in their strollers in the middle of the road. And so the Lake Wales Connected Plan called for the construction of sidewalks and believe it or not, street trees to be planted all throughout the Northwest neighborhood.
Yeah.
So very proud to say that we got the first half of that project completed last year, and it looks like we're going to have a breaking here in a few weeks on the second phase of that. And we will have constructed sidewalks throughout the entire Northwest neighborhood, which is it's a pretty big deal.
Along with the street trees, because in Florida, that's a big deal.
Along with the street trees. We got street trees coming in. And as you well know, we've been focusing on assisting with affordable housing construction and housing rehabilitation. These are all elements of the Lake Wales Connected Plan. Though we may have, I'd say, embellished or enhanced them a little bit, but fundamentally they grew out of that plan.
So you kind of shared where the genesis of the word connected is getting the two neighborhoods connected. But also a big part of the plan is walkability. You know, pedestrians and peddlers. I remember hearing that a lot as I was coming onto the commission. And so you mentioned the sidewalks. What are some other things that we've done to enhance that kind of peddlers and pedestrians kind of walkability?
Well, just looking at, talking about Park Avenue. Mm-hmm. So, we have very intentionally designed the downtown so that folks they feel comfortable, they feel free to be out walking and crossing the street. So we have very intentionally prioritized, our pedestrian foot traffic over vehicles, for example. And we've done that through creating narrower travel lanes in the street, wider sidewalks, even curbless streets. Mm-hmm. We brought the intersection, corners together, closer. We've been, as you know, we've constructed the Park Avenue Connector Trail.
Yeah.
And we have, I think, about 3 more trails in civil engineering design right now that I think will be under construction, this calendar year. We've implemented the circulator bus route. We've got the second circulator bus route in all of Polk County. And we've, what's the second micro transit route with our golf cart service, in the downtown. So, getting folks around and mobile has long been a priority for us.
I remember the bus route and I remember the squeeze route when both times the executive director of Citrus Connection was here. Very complimentary. It's a very forward-thinking thing. Not many municipalities are doing that kind of thing. So what kind of ridership are we getting? How's that squeeze route and the bus route working for us right now?
Well, I'm going to tell you the bus route surprised all of us.
Okay.
We average around 1,000 riders a month.
Wow. And who would imagine that in a town like Lake Wales?
Who would have imagined? And I think over 60% of those are folks that are just going to work.
Oh, cool.
So think about, those implications.
Yeah.
And if you remember, when we did the circulator bus route, that came out of a study. We did a study in the Northwest community.
Yes.
And what we determined, there was a lack of transportation and a lack of access to, food sources. Mm-hmm. And so we approached the Citrus Connection, had a conversation with them, and we saw that it's one way to solve the problem. And we created that circulator bus route, runs right inside our city limits all day, every day. And it's about 1,000 riders a month.
Yeah.
Now, the squeeze is a little bit of a different story. We're averaging about 200 riders a month, which is still, I feel like it's not a bad amount.
Yeah, for a golf cart.
For a golf cart, yeah, that's right. It's only running from 11 to 3 or whatever it is every day.
Which right now still is the peak hours for our downtown.
Those are the peak hours downtown by far.
Okay, well, and I remember that wasn't really part of the plan. But it's just something that obviously it became a need that rose to the surface as we built this plan out. So you mentioned, and we've seen that happen as a downtown begins to revitalize. Talk to me about you've mentioned the trails. I was just at a open house this past week for the kickoff of the construction of the Scenic Highway Trail, which is going to go down around our library and up towards Kissimmee Avenue. But part, again, of connected is connecting our historic downtown to our Lake Wales Park, which Lake Wales Park has always been kind of an activity center. But talk about Park Avenue Connector Trail and future plans for trails here in our city.
I'd be happy to. So we constructed that Park Avenue Connector Trail to connect the events festival area at the lake, to our downtown. I'm happy to say that it's working, and I know that it's working. When we have our special events down at the lake, our foot traffic in the downtown doubles during that period of time. We know that because we can measure movement through cell phone geolocation data. So we know that it's working. As a matter of fact, during Orange Blossom Review, I saw visitors downtown on their bicycles.
Yeah.
I stopped them and asked them. They were from out of state.
Yeah.
And they brought their bikes down and camped during the event. And then they were riding our trail system. So we know that it's working. We currently have, to build off of that trail, within the next 60 days, we will have designs finalized for the next phase of that particular trail. So we're constructing a trail that's going to encircle Crystal Lake.
Yeah.
It'll break off the Park Avenue Trail. Right. So that's going out to bid soon. We also have currently in civil engineering design a Kiwanis Loop Trail. So we're going to build a trail, around Kiwanis Park and through Kiwanis Park that'll connect to the bike path. And then it will connect to the current rails to trails that right now is separated from the rest of our trail system.
And we've had those for years now.
I don't know how many years, many years.
Yeah, many, because when I was still living downtown on Seminole is when that was done, and that's been years ago.
At least 15.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've been in my new location for 13 years. Yeah. And I remember how exciting that was. My family used to get out with the kids and their bikes and just use that. It started right over by the old Kirkland Gymnasium and ran the other direction. And even that portion was something that I saw people using often.
They loved it. It was just kind of a trail to nowhere.
Yeah.
And so we'll have it later this year. It's going to be connected to the rest of our trail system. Right. We also have in civil engineering design a trail that will go from the Lake Wells Lake up to the entrance of Bok Tower Gardens.
Right. Yes.
And, so we're going to have, our citizens and visitors are literally going to be able to walk or bike from our downtown to Bok Tower Gardens.
Yeah. It's really getting to a point where just about anywhere from the downtown area of Lake Wales, you can jump on a bike or even walk if you've got a little bit of time, and you can be just about to any important point in the city of Lake Wales.
Yes, sir. And we've got, she mentioned the open house this week. So we've had in design what's called the Ridge Scenic Highway, or at least a portion of that trail that's going to run up 3rd Street from Central Avenue and connect to the current rails to trails as well. All of the other streetscape projects that we've been designing over the last few years contain either a trail element or separated bike lanes.
Yes.
So you're exactly right. People will quite literally be able to get anywhere in Lake Wales, certainly within the core of the town, without ever getting in a vehicle.
Yeah. So that title, Lake Wales Connected, means a whole lot more than you would think right off the top, doesn't it?
It sure does. You think about the symbolism, just the city in a garden, right?
Yeah.
Which is our overarching thing.
Right.
We're going to be connecting visually Lake Wales through our landscaping, back to Bok Tower Gardens, which is really where the plan for the city of Lake Wales began, that I'm not sure a lot of citizens realize.
Yeah. Well, I know it was still pretty much it was just starting to really gain momentum when I did my first stint on the city commission as an appointed commissioner, and then into my first run for mayor. And you're right, it's such a big, beautiful, bold vision for downtown, but it's hard for everyone to grasp. So like you said, the scope of it kind of gets away from everyone, but it's a wonderful plan for the city. I remember, gosh, it's hard to believe, but it's been over a year now when we finally did the ribbon cutting on the Park Avenue Market Plaza. That was a big night when we gathered down there. Tell me what that felt like for you that night. You remember we gathered there on the plaza and all had to give speeches. And
I do remember. It was my birthday. I don't know if you remember that part.
Yeah, I remember we sang Happy Birthday.
We sang Happy Birthday, yeah. So that was one heck of a birthday present, and I think, the word that I always go back to is just pride.
Yeah.
I'm proud of the work that we're doing here at the city.
Yeah.
I want our citizens to be proud of it as well. And I really want them to be proud to call Lake Wales home.
Yeah. It's ever since we've opened it, we have gotten glimpses of what it can do. And I'll give you the two that really jump out to me are the two Make It Magical events. Now, by the way, just a shout out to Main Street and to the Lake Wales Arts Center. they have started a series of events called Lake Wales Live. In fact, I'm going to one tonight, which are wonderful. But boy, those Make It Magical events kind of gave you a first glimpse of what it could be like. You've been to those. Talk to me about your thoughts on those.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm downtown often now. Just these days, it's almost every day, right? It's I'm out meeting people and trying to recruit new businesses to Lake Wales and otherwise, and there's so much interest. This past December, there was a 29% increase in attendance at the Make It Magical.
It was packed.
It was packed. And what 29% looks like is about 1,100 more people in 2025 than attended in 2024. That was 4,900 estimated people
were about
here.
6,000 people this year.
Well, no. So it was 3,800
I see.
In 2024.
All I know is it was crowded. If you want to see what 4,900 people in downtown feels like,
at one time, crowded. You know what's interesting about that? Everyone found somewhere to park.
Yeah, we did all right. Yeah. Well, okay. So don't let me forget to circle back to parking, because that's one of the concerns that has been raised. But let's finish up there. Just talk to me about the upside, the benefits that you see coming to Lake Wales because we've made this investment, both that are already happening, that you anticipate will happen, and that you think are necessary because we've made a huge investment in downtown. So let's talk about that.
We have, and so you were asked a little earlier. We talked about some of the costs involved with this work, and I'd have to add. It'd take me a little bit. I have to add it up, but I can assure you we've probably invested, and now a lot of it. So we had our bond. We've been extremely successful, as you well know, in our pursuits for grants, but we've already expended it over $25 million, I think, on redevelopment efforts over the last few years.
Right.
And what that looks like, to our CRA, us at the city, is we have, through our direct redevelopment efforts and investments, we have increased the tax increment revenue that the city receives, the aggregate, over 100%. So we've literally doubled the amount of tax increment revenue that we've received.
Yeah.
So, that's major, because the more that we have, the more we can continue to invest in Lake Wales and making it better. A lot of the other benefits are, look, just the sheer beauty of the work that we're doing is getting so much attention that we're getting more visitors, and I'm having more conversations with interested businesses that want to relocate from elsewhere or expand into our downtown because they see where we're headed, they see what we're doing, and they want to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm. That's going to be critical. Now to activate the downtown. I know we've already got some businesses down there that are doing good work, but we're actively looking for new business investment, new businesses on our downtown streets. Let's talk real quickly about Oakley Park. I know that really wasn't part of the Lake Wales Connected Plan, but boy, it's beautiful. It's just gorgeous. Talk about how that came together.
Oh, man. So it actually started 8 years ago. I think we actually built it was the first part of that park.
Yes, I remember. It was the gazebo and the
those shelters and and the sidewalks. That strip of land next to the library was just vacant lot full of just weeds.
Yeah.
Quite honestly. Yeah. And actually a group of citizens that were affiliated with the Main Street back several years ago came up with the idea of kind of beautifying that area. And I said, I think I was the public services director at the time. And I said, what a great idea. Let's go.
Yeah.
And so we kind of really built the bones of that park about 8 years ago. And I'd always had this vision of it being, arts focused or a sculpture garden with some landscaping to make it prettier. We never really quite got there. When we started we started a horticulture division to take care of all these new plants that we've been planting. And by the way, we're in the thousands, the final count, the numbers of plants we've been planting.
The place is crazy with butterflies.
It's crazy with butterflies. So it never really reached its full potential until we hired Kevin Polk.
Yeah.
The city's horticulturist.
What an awesome hire.
He's been absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And so we brought Kevin in, and he said, "I got this, James." And so he designed the rest of that park, and you see what it looks like today. It's absolutely beautiful. We didn't have the expertise, I don't think, on staff to really make that park reach its full potential. And quite honestly, we didn't have all the resources and money.
Right.
Tommy Oakley reached out.
Yeah.
Tommy Oakley reached out to me and said, "I love the work that the city's doing. I love the work, the direction that you all are headed in, and I want to be able to contribute and help out." Yeah. And Mr. Oakley gave us $100,000.
Yeah.
And we were able to transform that park from what it was to what it is today.
It's awesome when a citizen like that wants to invest in a community, and I think that those sort of things are a direct result of of the commitment they see from city leadership. Speaking of which, I remember the initial meeting that Main Street held talking about that linear park, and I think Commissioner Gibson, was the one that pulled that together. So Robin's been a big-time contributor to downtown Lake Hills for decades now. So people like that. And I remember also after we had done the original, like you said, bones of it, we received a grant, T-Mobile grant.
We did.
So gifts and grants. So I don't want to go too far afield with this, but it brings up the subject of grants. Again, when a city takes the initiative to make these kinds of investments, one of the results is these grants. And man, we've been almost in the grant writing Hall of Fame in the last few years.
We have.
So talk about the big one we got last year as a result of the investment in Main Street or in Park Avenue.
Yeah. So the Raise grant.
Yeah.
So that was a national grant, and it's mainly for transportation or transportation related projects. And we were awarded $23 million.
Wow.
$23 million from the federal government. It's absolutely wild. These things just don't happen.
No.
We really beat, it's such a competitive grant. We beat some really big cities for this pot of money. We beat Atlanta, Georgia. We beat Nashville, Tennessee, Reno, Nevada.
Atlanta.
for this pot of funds. And so it's absolutely amazing. We're well over just over the last few years. And, I tell people all the time, you can't rely on grants. People tell, they think it's easy and they say, well, just go get a grant, as if they're just out there. And so I say all the time, you can't rely on grants. Well, then here we are, well over $30 million in grants.
Isn't that crazy?
Over just the last 3 years.
Yeah. Since I came on the commission, it seems like for a while, at almost every commission meeting, we were hearing about another grant that had been landed. $30 million in grants. I mean, that's multiple times some of the annual operating budget of some municipalities. So just incredible. And all of that is the result of a very bold, forward-thinking initiative that was undertaken. I think that Lake Wales Connected kind of began embryonically about 2017.
Yep.
And boy, how it has paid off and brought us to this point. So I'm going to wrap us up with one more question on this episode. What do you think is next for historic downtown? If people were to call you today and say, hey, what's the next step? What would your answer be?
Well, my answer would be this. The next step is the activation component.
Right.
And I can assure you that's happening. So the activation in terms of the new businesses, new business recruitment, that absolutely has to happen next. It's occurring now. There are more events being created by both city staff and Main Street as well. So what you're going to see starting this month, this year, are just more events, more activities just to bring people downtown and raise their awareness. So the activation is happening. But we're going to be doing more construction within the next 60 days. I think we're going to have a couple of groundbreakings on at least one section of First Street.
Yeah.
First Street's going to get the Park Avenue streetscape treatment. Ultimately, all of First Street. But I think we're going to break ground on that in the next couple of months, as well as streetscape projects on both Orange and Crystal Avenues.
So, do you think it would be helpful for our citizens also to know about what's happening with Grove Manor and we landed a big grant as far as Grove Manor goes, although we didn't land it. but want to tell them a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, we did partner with the Housing Authority,
Right.
and certainly you all, City Commission, you committed $1 million of funding toward this project. And so the housing, our local housing authority did receive, they're beneficiaries of a tax credit program that provides funding for the redevelopment of Grove Manor.
Right.
And so it'll ultimately get reconstructed in 3 different phases. But phase 1 is funded. I think it's about a $26 million project or so. And they actually should be breaking ground sometime this quarter. That project's approved and ready to go. And it's going to be converted to mixed income, but really more market rate apartments for private citizens.
The plans are beautiful. What we've seen in concept, it's gonna be a whole new world over there. It's gonna, like anything, it's gonna be a little disruptive for a while, but it's gonna be beautiful when it's done. So think about that in just this short period of time that we've been talking. Just 2 projects, a $44 million investment in downtown in the last several years. So big time payoffs we're hoping to see soon. So it's a whole different world around here, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And it's working. We are truly Lake Wales, going back almost 100 years in the 1920s when Bok Tower was designed and constructed and the Wales built was designed and constructed. This really was, up and coming tourist, community, and then the Great Depression happened. But here we are almost 100 years later, implementing a lot of those original concepts and ideas today. And it's working, and we're truly creating a unique destination community here in Central Florida.
Well, it's a lot of fun being the mayor right now while all of this good stuff is going on. Well, folks, we appreciate you taking the time to listen to this first episode of The Mayor and the Manager. Over the next few weeks, we'll be talking to you about some other things, what's happening with the Wales Bill, what's going on with our parks, and all of these sort of things. But before we end this episode, I do want to also tell you this. Any questions that you may have for myself or our city manager about city happenings, once we get through the first few episodes, we will give a segment to every episode to responding to questions and concerns you have. And again, thank you for joining us, and we hope that you'll join us again in our next episode. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Mayor and the Manager. The goal of this podcast is to keep you up to date on all that is happening in the great city of Lake Wales. To that end, we would love to take questions from you and take the time to answer them. So if you have any questions, just click on Submit a Question in the description above this podcast.